Hello, friends. So happy to have you
Hello.
here with us today at Radical Joy. If you've been here before, welcome back. If this is your first time with us, well, we're glad you're here. Each week, we're here with you talking to ourselves about things that weigh on our minds and hearts, hoping if you're dealing with something similar, we can adjust our perspectives as you listen. Hey, if you're struggling with something that needs immediate attention, please know that help is available. Just dial 988 nationwide in the U.S. to reach the Mental Health and Suicide Crisis Hotline. All of us here at CLW Studios believe that mental health is a vital part of our well being. The more people we meet and the more places we go, the more we realize how important it is to make people aware of the fact that there is no shame in enjoying the parts of our lives that are incredible. It's time for some radical joy. And this week, the three fingers pointing back at us are for our amazing guest, Breshia Hardy. Brescia is a life coach, empath, and expert in navigating transitions. As the co host of Words Matter, she brings a unique blend of emotional intelligence, practical wisdom, and a deep understanding of human connection. As a member of the LGBTQ plus community and a former finance professional with thriving careers at Deloitte and Expedia, Brescia now focuses on helping others embrace change, break through emotional barriers, and navigate life's most pivotal moments with clarity and confidence. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Brescia Hardy.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
It is so great to see you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. The first time you and I met through our mutual friend, John, I tell you what, it was one of those things where just sparks flew. I remember talking with you at the table. It's like, this feels like something we're going to talk about in 20 years when we're all sitting around our pool or whatever,
Yes.
like thinking about the things and remembering the night it all got
Mhm.
started.
Yeah, there was just such a great energy where I love those moments you feel incredibly present and grounded and there's just like that connection. Like those moments are so special.
Agree. And
Yeah.
it's just so nice to go to walk into a room and meet with people who really understand what it is you're trying to do
Mhm.
and they run sideways. They absolutely run parallel to it, and they have their own dreams and ideas, but they have this incredible ambition, this huge, like, smoldering drive to get what it is they want done put into the world. And that's why I was so excited whenever you said you'd love to come on Radical Joy. Like, perfect, because we have so many things to talk about. We've got to talk about your life coaching business as well as
Mhm.
talking about Words Matter, which I'm very
Yeah.
excited for people to know about. I think that's going to be an incredible asset to the community.
Mhm.
So basically, what I'd love to do is just sort of like say, hey, the floor is yours. What would you like to talk about today?
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm a Virgo. I'm pretty type A, and so I was like, I'm gonna make a list of all the things that bring me radical joy. And so I do have a list that's so me. And so I don't know if I can just like go to town on one of these ideas and we
By
can
all
see where it
means,
takes us. Okay.
I'm tossing you the
So
keys. Please take us to town. Thank you.
okay, we're going. We're ready to drive. Okay, perfect. So something that lately I've been reflecting on that's bringing me a lot of joy and something I've been really focused on over the past like 6 months to a year is building community. I currently live in Las Vegas and I've been here like a year and a half. And so something that's bringing me radical joy lately is friend dates, like Bumble BFF friend dates. And
Right.
yeah, like meeting new people because we are so connected through social media and like the internet, but it's like hard to actually find your like group of people when you move somewhere new. And so I've been investing a lot of time and energy into that, and I've been having the greatest time. And
Wonderful.
I know, and you just moved somewhere recently, and
I
so
did.
you not sure if you're on a similar journey of like building community where you're at as well.
Yes, and it's so funny that you mentioned that because I had never even heard of Bumble BFF
Yeah.
until I went to the gym and one of my instructors, she said, "Hey, this out." She said, "Especially if you just came into town." I thought I had a community, and I do. It's just that
Yeah.
I'm in one city and they're in another, so that's a little bit
Mhm.
difficult.
Yeah.
Making tactile connections is one thing. Like you said earlier, like
Mhm.
making connections on social media is one thing. It's wonderful to know what's going on in each other's lives. Being able to reach out and actually touch that person and make that physical, literal
Mhm.
connection, did not realize how important that was until I was at a place of deficit in such a
Mm.
business.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's like I think it's Esther Perel that talks about this, who I love Esther Perel, she's incredible. The idea of, again, being so connected, but do you have someone that will feed your cat while you're on vacation?
Okay.
Like, that person that's physically there that's gonna show up and, like, partner with life, like, be your partner in life to some degree. And so I feel like that's just something that I had been missing as well. And so, as I said, I've been prioritizing it. And through prioritizing it, I've met just like the most incredible people. And so I think that's the piece that's bringing me joy and just generally does. Like, I've loved going out on these like friend dates. You meet someone totally different that you wouldn't just meet in like, you know, the normal things you do at your normal gym, your normal class that you go to. And people just have such cool stories and perspectives that have just opened up my world in a way that's been so incredible. Just like that curiosity about how other people live their lives.
Wonderful. There is a word for that, and I love it. It's called sonder.
Oh.
You have these feelings that you get, and you don't know, especially in the English language, what to do about it. You have to sort of explain it instead of being
Mhm.
very succinct and put it into one word. And the word is sonder. Whenever you can look at others and wonder what happens in their lives, and
Yes.
learning that is
Mhm.
actually solving the sonder puzzle, the mystery, I
Mm.
guess, because in that way you can actually get to know who they are. And I've never been on a dating app in my life, not once, not ever. So when this person came
What?
to me with Bumble, never have I ever. But
James. Oh
no,
my gosh. Okay. I love
to be
that.
fair, I do not date very often. Like if
Yeah.
I find somebody super special, we'll
Mhm.
jive and it'll be great. But for the most part, I have seen and heard the horror stories about, God bless, the people who are trying to find love on the interwebs, and my heart goes out to them. I wish them the best because I know that is
Yep.
not a small feat.
It's a journey.
Wow.
It's a
Yeah.
journey. Mhm.
Yeah. Well, and also let's not overlook the fact that I am not any kind of spring chicken. I'm a little bit more cock the walk slash like old buzzard situation. The choices continue to decline as you reach
Mhm.
certain benchmarks in your
Yeah.
chronology of your life on the planet. So
And potentially get maybe a little more picky. Like, the older you get, the more clear you are on what you want. I feel like in the beginning, like, whether it be, like, dating or friendship-wise, like, when you're
yes,
younger, it's like anything and everything, whoever, and then you get older and you're like, "I actually have some criteria you need to check off before we're gonna, like, go into this all the way. As much as I'm
agreed.
curious about you, we have things that, like, need to be on the same page about," and so I feel like that can also really influence how someone navigates those types of apps. But
Agree.
I do think, we like people do love to joke about like there are horror stories. There are absolutely like low sides to these types of things. It can be like really fatiguing to like desire connection, try and find it, and then be like met with resistance or people not being as committed. But I think like the wins out of that experience is makes it so worth it. Like, you really don't know who's gonna come into your life and how they're gonna shift everything. Like, John and I met on a dating app and, we dated for a couple months, but now, like, have shifted into like, he's one of my best friends and has absolutely changed my life in so many ways. I have more examples of people like that, and I just think that, like, the more open-minded we can be around, like, meeting new people and building connections, whether they last a week or a lifetime, can just, like, take us on the most incredible journeys.
I agree. And I think being open to that is one of the largest things that we could do. Now, you'd
Mhm.
mentioned John. John Gillette is the person to whom Brescia was referring, who is
Yes.
also the other part of Words
My
Matter.
other half of Words Matter,
Right.
yes.
And I'm very
Mhm,
excited because we're going to be talking with him as well in the next
mhm.
coming weeks. So I wanted to make sure that whenever we make reference to those kind of things, you know exactly who to look for. You're going
Yes.
to love today's episode. You're going to enjoy John's episode as well. So I want to make
Mm,
sure you guys get all the opportunities to give as much love and support to Words Matter as you do for us here at Radical Joy. Thank you.
absolutely, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're super excited for that journey. I think, maybe to give, like, a little bit of background on, like, where that's going, I think that
Yeah.
also comes, like, that project, that podcast comes from a similar place of, like, loving, getting to know new people, connection, communication, and that's something that John and I are equally passionate about, and so,
Yes.
if we found that we were having a lot of these, like, deep conversations around how to better connect and communicate, and I'm having those with people on these friend dates as well, and we were like, like every other person in the world, we're like, we should make a podcast. We should talk about this, And so,
Right?
I mean, everyone's doing it these days, but like it's amazing. And it's been just this incredible um, journey. And our goal is really to highlight healthy, positive communication tactics and also, broach different subjects around communication and help people feel educated and empowered to connect to others around them.
Yes. And I think it's so important to be able to have those conversations so candidly. I think a
Mhm.
lot of people don't really understand or realize. I'm not trying to, hurt anybody's feelings. I don't think people understand just how important these connections truly are. We talk about that a
Mhm.
lot here on Radical Joy. These kind of connections that it's hard to meet people because we're also engulfed in our own
Mhm.
lives and our own screens, if I may
Yeah.
be so bold as to say it. And
Mhm.
so, the thought of going out there and putting yourself out there, even for a friend, a new
Mhm.
friend, the payoff is enormous. The risk can also be pretty steep.
Mhm.
And so whenever we actually open ourselves to it, I think it's wonderful the kind of payoff that we get from something like that.
Yeah,
And people start to
absolutely.
really understand that, like, if you've gone without for a while, you forget, or the
Mhm.
memory tends to kind of haze over. Then you make those connections. You go, oh, right, this was
This
wonderful.
does feel good, like, I wanna be out there even though it can be scary at times. Yeah, absolutely, just, like, that
Yes.
reminder, and I think something that I'm thinking about is there's the bravery that goes with wanting to meet new people and putting yourself out there and building new connections, but there's also then the second half of that work, which is, like, you have the connection, and what are you going to do to maintain it? Because I think that can be hard. I mean, we're all so busy. I struggle with this at times. It's like, great, I just met 10 new friends. It's like, well, how are you going to keep them? Like, like,
Yeah.
yes, like, are you willing to have difficult conversations? Are you willing to be vulnerable? Are you willing to, like, show up in a way that isn't always easy so that it can be something that lasts a long time and brings a lot of fulfillment and joy? And that is a whole separate type of work that and bravery that one has to embrace.
Agree, because it goes from feast or from famine to feast so
Mhm.
quickly. I
Yes.
think that once I open myself up to the fact that, okay, great, I'm ready to get some new friends in my life. I'm ready to
Mhm.
have some new people in my circle. And it's just like, whoosh. Once you open the gate, everything just starts to rush. And like you
Mhm.
said, okay, great. Now I've got it. How do I do this? Am I
Mhm.
juggling? Am I like, and different people have different levels of
Yeah.
maintenance. And that's
Yes.
always such an interesting dynamic to learn about as
Mhm.
well, because some people, especially among guys, pardon me for
Mhm.
saying, some of us are so easy. Wow. And some of us are so not at all. And trying to find that whenever we
Mhm.
all lie on a spectrum of
Mhm.
needs, necessities, maintenance
Yeah.
can be really tricky.
What does that look like for you? Where do you fall on that spectrum?
It depends on the person, honestly. Like if
Okay.
someone
Yeah.
comes up to me and they seem incredibly open and ready to just dive in both
Mhm.
feet, I can be a little needy, a little clingy,
Mhm. Mhm.
100%, because I feel like, oh my God, this is a person. Like this
Yeah.
is like one of my people. This is one of
Yep.
the inner circle, the
The
sanctum
click.
folk. Right. And then upon further investigation, maybe that was just like the initial because they knew
Mm.
what I needed to hear because of my response.
Mm.
I was
Mhm.
like, "Oh, okay, got it." And though I'm a
Yeah.
little disappointed, I get
Mhm.
it because I am
Mhm.
so much. I get it. I do. And I don't
Mhm.
apologize for it. I just know
No, not at all.
myself. Like,
Yeah.
sweet. Yeah, yeah. And some
Yeah.
people, that's just a whole lot for them to handle. Small doses for some. Others, they bring their bowl
They
and
say
their big
bring it.
spoon.
Yes. We want it
Sweet.
all.
Right. I was like, delicious. This is somebody I can really jam with. And
Mhm.
and it becomes that push-pull, which I
Yeah.
love because it is so present, it is so
Mhm.
attentive, it requires that. And I don't
Mhm.
mind doing the work as long as I know the payoff is gonna be great or knowing
Yeah.
that the payoff is gonna be minimal so I can start to make a little distance between myself and that person.
Yeah, adjusting expectations
That's
and
it.
yeah, absolutely. No, I totally resonate with that. I just recently had a conversation with someone who I did just meet on Bumble BFF, and we're starting to build a friendship, and I'm someone who, like, I struggle with texting. So, like, if you text me, like, it could be an immediate response, it could be days, it could be a week. Like, it's truly just dependent on, like, where I'm at. Because I try really hard to be present. Like, when I'm with someone else, like, I'm trying not to be on my phone. So, with friends, I have gotten feedback in the past that, like, "Hey, like, haven't heard from you. You're not super responsive." And to me, that doesn't diminish connection, but it can for certain people. So, I've made it a practice with friends to one, like, check in and be aware of what they need. Like, I have friends that, like, I do know I need to be responsive. Like, send the text back, focus. And then I have other friends that they're like, yeah, I don't really care. Like, if you don't text me back for a week, it's all good. And so making that adjustment and, like, similar to what you were saying, the self-awareness to know that about myself so that I can, like, set the stage, be like, hey, this is how I operate. A little
Right.
bit of, like, take it or leave it. Like, I can't be someone different. Like, I don't want to be glued to my phone and I'm not going to do that, but
Yes.
I can adjust based off what you need if you just tell me. And so, like, having those types of conversations to make these
Exactly.
relationship successful. Yeah.
And it's so funny because I do have friends like that, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners are that way too. Some people expect that immediately or
Mhm.
expect it, within 24 hours. I get
Yeah.
that. I do. And I also have friends who I know they are shite at returning any kind of anything.
Mhm.
So I have a very good friend. Whenever I need to speak to him immediately and urgently,
Mhm.
I'll talk to his wife first. I'm like, hi, I reached out to him today.
I
I
love that.
need you to like kind of ping him to make sure he knows that this is not just something that he can look at and leave. I need
Mhm.
him to get back with me with this. I
Yes.
I I know that that's also, I get like maybe 3 of those a month
Mhm.
max, so I act accordingly.
Yeah,
Still, one of my favorite people, one of my closest people in the world. If I was in
absolutely.
danger in any kind of need, he's one of the first people I would reach out to.
Mhm.
And then I would shortly after reach out to his wife to make sure he knew that this was not a joke.
Exactly, you're like, "This is serious, I actually need you, please." Yeah.
Right. Not a
Oh my gosh.
drill. Show up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like you have, you've set expectations with this friend and they've done the same for you, and so you don't start to feel resentment. I have felt, because I think that can happen when I've definitely had that in friendships where I'm like, there where it was opposite. They weren't reaching out to me that much, and I was like, starting to feel like you don't like me and all these things, and are we falling apart? And then finally I got up like the bravery to be like, "Hey, this is how I'm feeling." And they were like, "Oh my god, no." And I was like, "Oh, I just had to ask you about it?"
Yeah.
Oh. And then expectations from then on were like, if they're not getting back to me, I'm not gonna panic right away. I'm gonna chill out and just assume positive intent and that the connection is still there. But
Exactly.
it can be a lot of work though, and it can maintaining your emotions and
Yeah.
navigating them. It can be challenging. It's not always easy.
I think it also cultivates a very strong sense of security in yourself.
Mm,
I
yes.
often deal being in entertainment, sometimes you deal with insecurity because,
Mm,
somebody is X amount of something more than you are, or, X of something unfavorable less than you are. So you start to be like,
mhm,
oh, is it me? Is it because I'm too much or not enough or na 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 na?
mhm.
Instead of just like being the adult and
Yeah.
approaching this candidly,
Mhm.
respectfully, candidly.
Yeah.
Hey, this is what I'm feeling. I let it go for a while, and I find this important. I want to make sure that we hold
Mhm.
on to this if this is something that you would like to continue. Am I off the mark here? Do you see where I'm trying
Mhm.
to approach this very carefully, but it's still important enough
Mhm.
for me to bring it to your attention?
Yeah, absolutely. I think another interesting shift I've seen for myself when I think about friendships and just as I've gotten older is people put so much time, effort, energy into romantic connections. It's like we all have had that friend where they get in a relationship and it just it's like all in and they're like, okay, see you in a year or whatever,
Right.
and stuff. And you see all the effort and energy, and then they're like, I'm learning about this of them and all this, and they put all this, and then it's this big thing from a romantic perspective, and then people don't think that same thing is required for platonic relationships. And I think that's something that really shifted for me a couple years ago from one of my friends who was like, hey, like I treat my platonic relationships almost as seriously as my romantic ones, in the sense of commitment, communication, etc. And that was really changed the way that I started to move. And obviously, I do that with a smaller group of friends. You can't do it with everyone, but I think our society places so much emphasis on romance that we lose sight of the impact of platonic relationships in our lives and how much they're worth investing in.
Yes, agree.
Hmm.
We talk about it a lot over here. You have to have a tribe of people to take care of your needs.
Yes. Hmm.
You can't rely on your romantic partner to fulfill all of your needs. It's not fair. We are
No.
not so simple. We are very complex creatures. On
Hmm.
some levels, we are base. I get that. I pay homage to that. On others, we are intricate and beautiful, multifaceted,
Hmm.
brilliant, snowflake shining, delicious.
Yes.
You can't expect to get everything your heart needs, everything your soul craves and desires from one individual. That's not fair. It's going to put them on a pedestal they didn't
Hmm.
ask for. It's going to disappoint you in a way that was unfair for you to assume in the beginning.
Hmm.
And so approaching your platonic relationships in such a manner, like you were just
Mhm,
describing, seems like the smartest way to go about things. So that
mhm,
whenever something your romantic partner can't necessarily supply, you have
mhm.
a selection of very
Yes.
important people in your life who can help you match that, to complement that, to bring that to where it needs to be so you don't feel lacking.
Amen to that.
right?
Yes. Yeah, and it just, like, makes all your relationships more fulfilling and puts, yeah, so much less pressure that I don't wanna put on someone else, and I also don't want that put on me. Like, I
Thank
can't
you.
do it all. I'm one human, and so, yeah, I think I found some, like, things for me that I used to be like when I was younger, because I love music, I love to dance, I love doing this kind of stuff, like this like emotional and connection and personal development. And I was like, they got to check all these boxes. And then once I realized, I started like cultivating friendships. Like I have my music friend who I send all of my music to. I have got my dancing friend. We go out dancing together. And so now my romantic partner, I hope they like to do those things, but if they don't, it's not the end of the world. I'm not feeling resentful. And I think what was happening for me in relationships prior was I'd be in them for like a year or two, not be getting the dance, the music or whatever. And then at the end I'd be like, I hate you. Like you've made me different. You know what I mean? You've
Yeah.
made me change. And it's like, no, they didn't. They didn't make you change. Like you just stopped investing in those things because it wasn't what your romantic partner was doing when really you had the agency the whole time to go do those things and find someone else to go do it. So it's like
Yes.
I think I've felt much more at peace in my like romantic relationships because of the work I've done in my platonic ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and I love that word that you used, agency.
Mm,
We continue to forget the fact that we don't have to ask about that. Number two, we have to continue to be so incredibly clear in our communication. If
mm,
you're not getting something you need out of the relationship, it's not because the relationship is lacking. It's because that
yeah.
partner perhaps does not have the capability of supplying that in the amount that you need.
Yeah.
So you have to have a very candid conversation about that and find someone who can do that. I am
Mhm.
here for romance and love and connection and intimacy. I am there for this. And there is no threat. There is no
Mhm.
problem here that I'm making. I'm just saying this is a very important part of my life. And in order to avoid
Mhm.
creating a resentment situation, what I would love to do is to make sure I'm very upfront with you and say that I need this as well. You don't
Mhm.
love it. So perhaps I could do that with this friend over
Mhm.
here instead.
Exactly. And having a partner that's willing to then say yes, because
Eh,
that's the other part. It doesn't work for everyone. Like there are people who really prefer an all or nothing connection. And again, to each their own, whatever works. But yeah,
sure.
being that partner to then be like, "Oh, I hear you. Yeah, please. I don't wanna go dance. Go dance with whoever else." And
Amen.
then lets you do it guilt-free, again, with, like, trust and communication being there. I think that is just like, that's the ideal connection for me anyways. But yeah,
Agreed.
offers so much freedom.
And that's part of the reason why Radical Joy is here. So we can talk about these kinds of relationships, both
Yeah.
platonic and romantic, any and all, honestly,
Mhm.
connection in general, just to make sure that we can make that a little bit more commonplace. The
Mhm.
word normalize has been used so much. I'm just like, oh my God, I'm just
It's
so
been
tired of
normalized.
hearing it. Exactly. It's been boring eyes. I'm like, I'm done. I'm tired of even listening about this word. What it does is we continue to have the conversation so that people feel secure in their relationships,
Mhm.
whether they're platonic or romantic, to continue to build on that, not
Mhm.
replace, but to
Mhm.
supplement, so they can
Mhm.
continue to build these kinds of communities so that they are more whole people.
Mhm.
I think whenever you
Absolutely.
start looking for those kind of all or nothing relationships, just like you said, I don't want if that's
Mhm.
your gig, that's your gig. I just know
Yeah.
it's rarely worked so well for me.
Mhm.
And it's making sure that everybody knows exactly what's going on and continuing to have those conversations as these relationships grow to make sure
Mhm.
everybody knows what's happening in your heart and in your mind so no one gets surprised or finds a
Yep.
chance to imagine perhaps a situation that isn't exactly happening.
Telling themselves a story, very creative. Yeah, that's the one I do a lot. I say that all the time. I'm like, "The story I'm telling myself is X, Y, and Z," or I'll be like, "Is that the story you're telling?" You know what I mean? Like, that's been,
Yeah.
like, actually a really great way to kind of broach some of those topics as well, where it's like, because we all get pretty creative if we don't have the information and we're left guessing, and
Right.
that's not fun for anyone.
No, and it's always so funny to me that the thing that I come up with is always just wildly off base.
Totally.
Holy mother of Pete. And whenever I bring it up to someone else, they're like, oh no, I literally lost my phone. We got a little crazy at the club last night. I lost it and it took me 3 days to get it back. I'm sorry, what did I miss?
You're
You
like,
missed
"Oh,
me
you
bearing
should."
my soul and calling you all manner of terrible names because what a dude. No.
Totally, you're like, "I've got a whole book written about it, okay? Like, I have
Okay.
stories." Yeah.
Don't
Oh
make
my
me send you a screenshot of this
I
mess. So yeah.
totally. We've all been there, and that is such a humbling moment when you're like, "Oh, okay, it's actually really simple." What is that saying? It's like, "The simplest just like answer is probably the right one or the
Yes.
simplest explanation. Yeah. And so I sometimes have to talk myself down
Right.
on
Also,
that as
being part of
well.
the entertainment community, very
Hmm.
rarely is anything simple. Almost
Mm.
everything is always flashy and complicated and
Oh,
very
interesting.
intricate because we
Hmm.
can't just go from A to B. We've got to go through QX and like infinity symbol before we
Hmm.
can get to B. So,
I love that. I love a little taste of that. Like I like having people around me that bring me some of that energy, but like ex finance Brescia, yeah, that was not the energy I was getting most of the time from the people around me. There wasn't a lot of pizzazz. There was a very simple, straightforward, maybe too simple, straightforward.
I,
So you need
and
both.
also that I'm glad you said that. Like, okay, so what was the thing? What was the spark? What
Mhm.
was the inspiration to move you from
Mm.
finance into what you're doing now? What was the thing that sort of like spurred that into the new era?
Yeah, I in my roles in like corporate America, I did my job well. I was good at it. Again, like Virgo type A, like the accounting audit. Like I was in it, like I was good at my job. But
Absolutely.
it was for me, one element of it was like as an auditor, you are the bearer of bad news. Like every time I show up to someone's desk every day, they're not happy to see me. I'm usually bringing some sort of bad news or they're just stressed. And I was like, this is just not me. Like that's just
Yeah.
not the energy I like move through the world with. So that was always kind of like at a head. And then I think the other part of it was in all the roles that I've played throughout my entire life. I loved like mentoring and helping people. And so I found that when I was working with the interns or the people I was overseeing, it was more than just me like teaching them how to do the job. There was so much of the like career development and like motivation. I was a cheerleader in high school, and so, like, I have the cheerleader in me, like, I can't get rid of
Yeah.
it, and so, like, I get such joy from, like, cheering people along and being like, "Hey, you got this. I see more for you," or, like, "Let me help you." I'm very service oriented, so I'm like, "Let me help you with your resume. Let me help you with this interview," So I found that, I was doing the work, but where I was really finding joy was in those interactions, and I was serving more as, like, my team's life coach anyways, and so I was like, wow, this is where I want to be spending more of my time. This is more of the skill set I want to develop. It also like layered onto a lot of just my passions outside of work. I've spent so much time doing a lot of research around like sex and relationships, particularly around like the queer community. As someone who's part of that community, and so this was all just layering one on top of another, and then also some corporate burnout. Classic. I was hitting a point where I was like, it was post like COVID, like 2021, and I was like, I
Mm.
just need to make a change, and so I quit my job in Seattle. I moved back to Montana and had like a little regroup, come to Jesus moment, and started my life coaching business. And it's been a journey. I've had to learn so much about myself and entrepreneurship in the last couple years, but it's been the most rewarding thing I've ever done.
Amazing. Wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so nice to know that about yourself too. You get into
Mhm.
something and you study and you work and you know you're good at the job
Yeah.
that you do, but you know there's an element of it that is not going with where your soul is leading the rest of you.
Mhm.
And so
Yep.
you make the leap. It is not easy. It is not simple. It is
Yeah.
very scary. But there's also something we always say around here is like, hey, trying something new should scare the shit out of you. The worthwhile
Mhm.
things really will. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, great. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and, like, more scared to be stuck in the same place than scared to try something new. Like, that
amen.
was yeah, like, I was like, "I can't spend another second doing this," or, like, the next I don't wanna wake up a year from now, like, that's scary to me and be in the exact same place, and so, like, yeah, taking those risks. I can be yeah, those risks I can be a little reckless sometimes. It's like but, it takes a little bit of that, but it's paid off, but there's
I
been
will
ups and
see
downs
you're
for sure.
reckless and I will raise you to adventurous. How about
Okay,
that?
there we go. I'm a little adventurous,
There you are.
exactly.
That's the way I
In
love it.
certain things, other things not so much. I literally refused to jaywalk the other day. So, yeah, it just depends.
Hey, priorities. You know what I'm saying? It's
Priority take
100%
risks
yes.
where they pay off. Exactly. I'm like, I'm not getting hit by a car today, okay?
And in Las Vegas, that's a very valid concern. I'm glad
That's
you're very careful about that.
that's what I said. So,
Yeah.
anyways, but yeah, so it's been an incredible journey, but I what I wasn't expecting was I knew there would be challenges as far as like learning how to run my own business. I didn't know shit about marketing, branding, like social media. I'm still learning so much, but I think the hardest part was like getting over my own limiting beliefs or coming to terms with them.
Yep.
I think I knew them to some degree, but like this like was a spotlight on them. And it's been a lot of work to recognize them, address them, and like continue to try and circumvent them in order to not like impede my own success or be my own worst enemy, which is so that was a part of the journey that maybe I should have expected but didn't. And I've been really lucky to have really supportive people in my life to help
Good.
me when it's the down part. And
Sure.
celebrate the up part. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Mhm.
And that the part I love about that is that they can be the same people.
Yes.
Sometimes it's okay to be like, okay, there are some people I never hear from them unless they're having the worst day of their lives.
Mhm.
And then there are other people where I hear about them because they want to share their good stuff with me, and I
Mhm.
love that. Some people, it feels like bragging if you didn't know what they were doing. This
Mhm.
isn't boasting. What this is someone
Yeah.
who's really proud of this. They don't know where else to take it, so they bring it to
Mhm.
my front door. It's like, absolutely, I will take
Yes.
this gift, and I will tell you how proud I am of you or any of the other, and I am here for it all day.
Oh,
And
I'm the same way. I'm like, "Let's
right,
celebrate. Let's go do this. Let's do that. Or let me just hype you up a bit. Like, you deserve it."
yeah, especially if it's something I know they've been working on. You know,
Yeah.
it's one thing that if it just sort of like life surprises you with something, that's wonderful. We all
Mhm.
love those little surprises, the good ones.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Right. And then if someone has been clearly working on something like a very good friend of mine, he just got accepted into an Ivy League master's program and they offered
Amazing.
him scholarship money and these things. And I'm just like, I could not be more proud of you or more excited for
Mhm.
you for this next thing. And I look at this thing objectively, just looking at it. If I were someone watching this as this were a film happening, like, well,
Mhm.
this guy's so full of himself. Why is he, always talking about the good
Mhm.
things? Because that is their dynamic.
Mhm.
And I'm so much less judgmental of it now than I have been in years past because I know exactly what this is. It's not someone boasting. This is going
Yeah.
well in my life, and I share that with the important people in my life who love me enough to celebrate that with me instead of falling over into envy, jealousy, or wishing they had more
Yes.
of that in their own lives.
Amen to that. Yeah, I think that's so important. I think there needs to be more people like you, and I consider myself someone that does that as well because like when you're younger, there's obvious things we celebrate. It's like you graduated high school, you graduated college, and then if you go down a more traditional path, you got married, you had a kid. And so it's like there's like those four couple big things that we like socially are built in to celebrate and that people whoever they are will celebrate.
Yes.
But I've found that, like, one, I'm not married, I don't have kids, I'm like, that's not, like, my path, that you if you don't celebrate your own stuff, no one will. And that, it's just you have to take the time to like pause and acknowledge the things you've accomplished. And they're just as valuable as some of those other like major milestones that we socially um accept. And so I like challenge everyone to find their like cheerleader friend who they call and will hype them up and be like, yes, you passed your test, or you know what I mean? Or those things, they matter. But they're the things that keep us going. And I think like a big part of my life coaching business is helping people navigate transition, whether that be like a career transition, moving to a new city, entering or exiting a relationship. It can be pretty broad, but like the life cycle of change, it all ends with like taking legitimate time to celebrate how far you've come. And if you skip
Yes.
that step, you're missing out on a major part of that transition and kind of like completing the cycle. And so
Yes.
I'm all the way here for that.
Oh, love that. Well, and the way that you just described that, well, that was beautiful. A. B. What I would love to say to that is that celebration is also a moment of rest, just a
Oh,
tiny
yes.
little bit, because a lot of people have been working and working and grinding.
Mhm,
Yes. And having that moment to be able to celebrate it and just kind of like lean into your laurels that you have
mhm,
so righteously worked for and
mhm,
deserve to win is your moment to breathe. Tomorrow we can work again. We can go back to the mission. Today, this moment, we're going to share this with people that love us and want to see us do even better.
mhm.
Take that moment to breathe, let our muscles rest, kind of shake it out, eat a sweet treat, and then tomorrow we start again.
Yes, yes,
Right?
it's absolutely necessary, and I think we're all like, a lot of people can fall victim to this where, yeah, the second you accomplish something, you raise the bar. You're like,
Ugh,
"But wait," you know what I mean? We all
yes.
do that. where it's like,
all of
okay,
us.
yeah, I got into that MBA program, but now it's like, no, bitch. Like, it's just like take a second to like be
Yes.
happy for 1 second.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
It's so, and like, yes, you will level up and you will find the start of a new journey. And so, yeah, just like, yeah, relax your jaw, drop
Uh,
your shoulders, like,
ooh, you
do what
read my mail, mama. Look out. Oh,
I'm so bad at that. Literally, it's like I'm like this all day. It's like,
my
man,
jaw. The
calm
good
down.
news is it's giving me this really sharp line around here. The bad news is I wake up with a
Same.
terrible, right? It's like, ugh,
People are
those
like, you have a
mandibles.
great jawline. I'm like, yeah, I worked for this. I've been
Exactly.
stressed. Yeah,
You don't want to know the condition of my back teeth. Okay, thanks.
exactly. It's like, yeah, exactly. I've got my mouth guard in.
Right.
Exactly. Oh my God, that's so funny.
That's
But
such a
yeah.
great point that you raised,
Mhm,
though. It's like people, they are driven. People, high
mhm,
achievers especially, and I would love to go ahead and say that I would include a lot of our listeners, if not all of them, in those categories because they're listening to this because they want to find a way forward. They
yeah.
realize there's a lot of stuff working against them, but they can still celebrate the good things that happen. High achievers tend to do that. They reach
Mhm,
that next benchmark, they breathe for a hot second, and they go right back in. They put their nose back to the
mhm.
grindstone and they throw that thing over a shoulder and back up the hill they go.
Yep.
Breathe.
Mhm.
Anybody who's in fitness knows the growth doesn't happen while you're lifting, the growth
Mhm.
happens while you rest.
Yes.
Then, when you go back to it, you are stronger and bigger and ready to face a larger challenge once you have given
Mhm.
yourself a moment to sort of like uh, ingest that
Yeah.
good that you have accomplished, and you can go back to doing more good whenever you've thoroughly acknowledged that, and then go on to what's next.
Yeah. And I think part of that as well is like everyone needs different amounts of that, right? Like different amount of time spent in the resting breathing. Like I think what I find with a lot of my clients is they feel guilty if they're not making progress, or they feel guilty if it's not going fast enough, and I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, I know the feeling. That's like a normal feeling is part of this. So partially just like embrace that. And they're looking at the person next to them and saying, well, they only needed to like, go through it for like a week or chill or rest and be in that like hibernation phase for a week. And I'm like, but you're not that person. Like you might need a couple months of like reflection coming down from this before you're ready for the next thing. And I think the more people try and fight that, the more difficult like the next round of growth is.
Agree.
And so like I'm someone, and I know this, it's that I do require a lot of like reflection and rest in order to make change in my life. So my progress is going to be slow, and I've accepted that. Like I'm not that person that can just like be on the hamster wheel and keep going. And the once I started accepting that, I was so much more at peace. I'm like, I'm going
Yeah.
to get there, but I'm going to get there when I need to. Celebrate the wins along the way,
Yes.
and just like be aware of like how my journey is unique and lean into it.
Yes. And for whatever reason, whenever you say that, I often get these
Mhm.
crazy images in my head whenever my guests, especially, start talking about these wonderful ideas and concepts. I do well with pictures. For whatever reason, it makes me think of Lego.
Mm.
You're like, sometimes you need a lot longer for whatever before you're ready to take on the next challenge. Great.
Mhm.
And then for some things, it's going to be one of those things where it's just going to fall right into place. Like if it
Yeah.
takes a long time, I'm thinking one of those really long pieces that has like 24 little, little pegs on it.
Yeah.
And then, okay, great. That's going to take me a little bit longer.
Mhm.
And then on others, oh, look at that.
Wow, look at you, you're
Ooh,
sparkling.
I am
That's kind of fun.
sparkling.
I
Like, I
like
think that was
that.
this. That was it. Oh,
Okay, the
we
double
are
thumbs up.
We are
We're learning
learning and
things.
growing on Radical Joy today, friends. We got
Oh
some
my
some
god.
good stuff happening right now. But there's going to be
Oh
some
my
things in
god.
your life where you want
Mhm.
to improve these things. You want to make a change, and it's going to happen almost immediately. It's
Mhm.
almost instantaneous because for whatever reason, you were on the cusp of that change, that
Mhm.
growth anyway. And
Yeah.
so, whenever you became cognizant of it, whenever you really started to focus your intention on it, it all just
Mhm.
kind of fell into place. And it can be a little upsetting because of it, how abrupt it will feel
Mhm.
compared to some of
Mhm.
the other things you had to work for so long or
Yeah.
had so much of a reflection period once you achieved. I would like to encourage us all to sort of like lean into that as well. Not everything is going to be a struggle and not everything is going to happen overnight.
Yes.
Certain parts of these are going to be compartmentalized or fragments or whatever, and they're going to happen much quicker. It doesn't make the accomplishment any less significant.
Nope.
And I just want to make sure that we mention that. I think
Mhm.
for some people that's going to be obvious, but not for everyone. So I just want to take just a hot second and say, hey, some of these things are going to happen like literally. They're just going to go boom and it happens.
Mhm.
And others, it's going to be a slog.
Yep.
It's going to be an uphill battle in the snow
Buckle
both
in.
ways barefoot. The good news
Mhm.
is pretty soon you're going to get frostbite and lose some toes. You're not going to feel it anymore.
Good. Yep, it all just normal no oh, I said
There it
that
is.
word,
There it
normalize.
is.
God dang it. Ah, no.
But the good news
Yeah,
is we're noticing it. It's like, yeah, yeah, yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. I don't know. Buzzwords are there for a reason. I just want to make sure that we use them sparingly or we, poke that tongue in
We're
the cheek whenever
thoughtful
we do
about
it.
them. Oh my gosh,
Yep.
yeah, yep, I get that. The one I've been using lately is authentic. I need to stop saying authentic. I mean, I gotta find a synonym ASAP.
It's difficult but that is such an important element in our lives right now
It
because of
is.
so prevalent a role
Mhm.
social media plays in our lives from day to day.
Yes.
So much of that is curated and
Mhm,
photoshopped and filtered within an inch of its life. It's just like, okay, the things that I have found working in social media that do resonate most highly and most strongly with others is
mhm.
that element of authenticity. If you
Yes.
show up and you're looking like your hair's a little busted, or maybe
Mhm.
one of the wings of your eyeliner isn't exactly parallel with the other,
Yes.
for whatever reason that came to mind, I was like, yeah, yeah, this is somebody who goes through it occasionally too, and that is
Yeah.
okay. That is
Those
a
are
message I
people
want
I
to
want to
hear.
connect with, right?
Yes,
Because, like, it's someone that where you feel like I mean, everyone experienced something, but we're like, it's totally together all the time. There's just like no sense of, yeah, like realness. I'm like, what? Like, how are we what are we supposed to talk about? Like,
right,
like, I want to relate to you and I want to feel like I could sit and have a drink with you or that you would get my struggles and I would get yours. And so, yeah, seeing that online, those are the creators that stand out to me as well. And I don't create a ton of content, but the stuff that I've done that's like me sharing something like vulnerable or like crying my eyes out about something or other, it's like that's where I've gotten the most like messages, people being like, I connect to this so much. And I'm like, oh, see
exactly,
how that works. The universe rewards authenticity. So
exactly. People being themselves, and it's really hard to find because
mhm,
I'm about to
do it,
admit
James.
something really nasty. I
Do it.
Fake eyelashes make me crazy.
I don't like them either.
They make me crazy. If it makes you feel good to wear a false eyelash, it's great. If it makes you feel
Mhm.
better to have lip filler and contour your face
Yep.
within an inch of Jesus, darling, rock it. Whoever you are, do it.
Mhm.
This is merely my own opinion on the whole thing. Whenever I see something like that, my judgy ass stupid kicks in, and I'm I'm cognizant of it, and I'm
Yeah.
working to
Yeah.
be better at it. But there's also a part of me that just like after working in theater for so long
Yes.
and knowing that the women in theater would not wear their falsies out of the theater unless it was a two-show day and like the
Yeah.
etiquette around it,
Mhm.
seeing people wear those in life just jangles my bones to the core.
They're uncomfortable. I don't like them. I wore them like growing up doing dance and stuff, and
Yep.
like they're every time I have attempted to wear them out, it falls out like halfway through dinner, or I'm like in the bathroom like gluing it on better, and I'm like,
Amazing.
this isn't good. Like I just why do I do this? Like it's every like 6 months I try one time, and I'm like, no, this looks
Right.
crazy on you.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, no,
And
I agree, that stuff drives me kinda nuts, and again, to each their own, like, whatever makes you feel good, like, if
yes.
that makes you feel confident and move through the world in a way that feels good to you, amen, but, yeah, it's not for me personally, yeah.
And I only
Mhm.
bring it up because of the authenticity. Because for
Yeah,
me, the sad part is the only people with eyelashes that beautiful are dudes who use the same bar of soap to
dude,
wash their butt that they do their face.
don't even get me started, it's
I don't
bullshit.
it's
It's bullshit. I'm like, "You don't deserve those."
you don't deserve these 4 layers of eyelashes. It's so funny
No.
because I have some of my guy friends have those, and it
Yeah.
just cracks me up because their girlfriends or whoever in their lives are just
Mhm.
like, "This is horse shit." It's like,
It is.
yeah,
I'm like, I'm gonna pluck those out in your sleep. So it's
I
like, yeah, it's just you don't, yeah, I get that. It's so funny. Oh my gosh. But yeah, that kind of stuff, it does like weigh on you though, like social media and like seeing those like
oh,
images and
yeah.
like, we're talking about fake eyelashes, but it can be anything from like the filters to the like as a woman in particular, like the filler, the lips, like all that. Like I have to navigate that a lot. And I do delete social media because there will be times where I'm like, I don't look like that. And so I must not be beautiful or extra. It's like, it's even like a grown adult who is confident in themselves can fall victim to like seeing that and wanting to change themselves. And it can be pretty exhausting. And so then, yeah, like if you see someone that's not embracing that or embracing their own thing, it can just be so incredibly refreshing and a reminder that you don't need to get your lips done if you don't want to.
That's it. And it's
No.
you said something right now, and that again, it just hit that little bell in my mind. Practice makes permanent. Meaning you could be one of the
Mm.
most secure individuals and you're proud of your life, you're proud of your accomplishments, you're proud of the temple that you've built for yourself to house your
Mhm.
beautiful spirit. And if you continue to see these things that continue to take these little nips at your confidence, at
Mhm.
the strength, at your foundation, that you do that, eventually you'll probably fall victim to it. It's
Yeah.
just because it continues to come after you, and it's not that it ever feels like an attack. It
No.
just continues to sort of,
No.
like, chip away. Exactly. It
Mhm.
just sort of
Yep.
nibbles at it where eventually it will compromise your foundation, and it may start to crumble a little bit, and like you said, sometimes I gotta either turn it off, I gotta delete it, I gotta get rid of it because I
Mhm.
can't look at that. It is
Yep.
hurting me in a way that is fundamentally working against who I am and what I wanna try to do in the world, and so I'm
Exactly.
looking away from it.
Yeah, looking away from it, and then I think, even going back to, like, full circle to, like, the community aspect of things, coming
Yes.
back into your community of people, like, in your life who are real people who you love and connect with and say, like, "This is what's real. This is what I'm building. This is who's going to, like, reinforce that, I am XYZ beautiful and I don't need to do this." Like, regrounding yourself in reality and having the community and safe place to do that.
Yes, and continue to remind you whenever you forget, because we all do, no matter
Yeah.
how awesome we are.
Mhm.
Sometimes we forget, and we need that community to come back and bring us back to where we belong.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
and that is almost always on top of the mountain, which I love. To find the
Mhm.
right people, and they will always continue to put you at the pinnacle of your performance. They will
Mhm.
continue to raise you up, not to put you on a pedestal. That's why I was kinda careful to make sure I use the word pinnacle and not pedestal.
Mhm.
They want to bring you
Mhm.
to the top of your mountain because you have
Mhm.
proven over and over again that you deserve to be there.
Mhm. Yeah, and they see something in you, like, people around you see something in you that you can't, and so there's, like, the element of obviously your self-confidence and self-assurance and believing in yourself, but there is that element of, like, someone seeing something in you that you can't and being reminded that that's, like, part of your essence and how you show up in the world, like, that's so reinforcing.
Agree, and I love it. I love that we have people like that can do that for us.
Mhm.
'Cause they come to us and whenever I have a tough time, it's usually people can tell because my social media gets kinda quiet or I haven't posted
Mhm.
something in a few days, like,
Mhm.
"Hey, you okay over there?" It's like, "Yeah." Honestly, I am. It's just that, like,
Mhm.
not much has happened. I don't really
Mhm.
need a lot from it right now, etcetera,
Mhm.
but the question is more than enough.
Mhm.
"We
Yes,
noticed
the
you've been a little
check-in.
quiet. How you doing? You okay over
Mhm.
there?"
Yep.
Yes, I am, and I'm even better now that you came out of nowhere
Yep.
to make sure that I'm okay,
Absolutely.
right?
It means so much. I very much believe in, like, intuition and energy and all this stuff, and so something that I do on my end is, like, if I have a dream about someone, or if I even get, like, when someone just randomly pops into your head and you're like, "I don't know why I just thought of them," I almost always text them because there's
Yes.
something about I don't know, there's just I trust in that some those, like, messages are coming to you, and almost every time I've done that, someone's either been like, "Oh my gosh, I needed this today," or, like, it's been some sort of, like, connection I needed as well, and I just think we're, like, way more intuitively connected to each other, and that if we follow those things, it can lead to really, like, simple, engaging, like, connections in those moments for both people.
Agree. That
My
someone has
woo-woo
plucked a
stuff.
string that is connected to our hearts.
Mhm.
Someone
Exactly.
somewhere, and even though they may not think of it in the same metaphor, someone
Yeah.
out there has sent out a signal. They are sending up, I don't want to say an SOS, but they're definitely putting out something that they need something from somewhere, and they may not know what it is, but they've done it. And
Mhm.
whenever you get that intuition, that little spark, that little hint behind the ear, that little itch,
Like,
it, every time I've followed that, it's turned out to be something that either they didn't realize they had done, or they're like, "Oh my god, how could you have known?"
yeah.
Sort of situation. I love it, and I
Those are,
think
like,
that's
the
so
most
important.
those are the best moments where you're like, "Oh, this feels so good." Like, this is what life is all about, right? Like, these
Yes,
moments of connection and, just, like, again, even, like, when we were talking about when we first met, there's that, like, spark of, like, being so present and aligned and, like, exactly where you need to be. It's just such a good feeling.
Agree. And all I can do is hope that everybody else leaves himself open to feel the same thing. I think that anyone and everyone is capable of it. I
Mhm,
used to say, I don't want to sound too woo woo, and I've left that so far behind. It's ridiculous. Let me tell you something. We are made for connection. That is
mhm,
literally who and what we are. I don't know exactly how to describe it. I don't know how to show it on,
mhm,
a whiteboard with a marker. But what I
mhm,
can tell you is from my own experience, I know that we are connected. And the more open we stay to that, the fuller our experience as humans as part of a community will be. I have every faith in the world in that. And so
amen.
I try to encourage that every time we step up here, either, with saying it directly or making sure that we give enough examples so that people continue to see it. And maybe I'm the one that's nipping at that foundation of doubt that's
Mhm,
been holding someone down or around or under. And they
mhm.
can finally come to the top and they can make those connections, live fuller lives because they've heard us talk about it so much and so clearly. We've had other people talk about it and use different examples, use different metaphors, and great. Saddle up, Buttercup. Let's go.
Different examples and different stories work for it's like you can hear the same story, but from a different person or slightly different, it lands that one time, and that's really what matters.
Agree. And that's another thing too. Sorry, I know we're almost wrapped up here, and I love it because this is I love these kinds of moments because you can feel how it's not running out. What it's doing is tapering to a moment where it's a
Mhm.
perfect time to say, "We love you. This has been so fulfilling. Thank you for
Yes.
being here." But what it is, it's I never ever again, because I have been guilty in the past of getting envious when
Mhm,
someone says the exact same thing that I said, but someone gets something out of it.
mhm,
Please let me be smart enough or move past my own stupid far enough to let someone get the blessing because they needed to hear something I said out of someone else's mouth or through the lens of their experience.
mhm. A win is a win, like the message lands. Yeah, remembering like the why. Like, oh, I wanted them to, get XYZ message and they did, and it wasn't from me, but it's all connected. Yeah, it's totally been there where you're like, wait, I
Exactly.
just said that. But you're like, okay, I'm happy for you. Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
100%. But where's the lie? Exactly. I feel
Exactly.
exactly
We're
what
all
that.
human beings. No one's perfect. It's like we're still human beings that say shit. Well, yeah, it's like
Yeah.
I just said that, and then you're like, well, okay, Brescia healed Brescia. Calm down. Like they got
Right.
the message, and everyone won, and life is good. And then we cheer each
Amen.
other on.
And something I continue to tell myself, not a competition.
There's enough for everyone.
There's God, the abundance the universe has
Abundance.
for us, trust. There's
Hmm.
plenty. There's more than enough for every single person to reach their wildest dreams, and no one must live in scarcity. Shocking to
It's
think.
It sounds simple,
Right.
not so
Oh, I know.
simple,
It
but,
is not.
but, like, when you can start to embrace that, it is insane how much your life can shift or just the way you move through life, and it's just been just so rewarding.
Agree.
Right.
And this is why help is important. Life
Mhm.
coaching is one of those things where I know a lot of people have very specific ideas on it. And I'm not saying any of
Yes.
that. I'm just saying they have very specific ideas on it.
Yes.
And I'm here to tell you that sometimes you don't have the kind of people in your life that can give you the support you need on a friend basis, which is
Mhm.
why we have people like Brescia and her experience and her skill set that make
Mhm.
this so important to reach out to people like her if you feel like this is something that you would need to release those sort of obstacles, to
Mhm.
sort of lay down that burden and really start to embrace a fuller part of your own life. And she's the kind of person that can lead you through the sort of methods and tactics and strategies that will bring you to the other side of it so you can move through in a fuller and more realized existence.
Yes. I love all of that. You nailed it. It's literally the thing that brings me more joy than anything in this world is seeing people navigate their journey, overcome obstacles, and end up on the other side. Nothing brings me more
Wonderful.
joy.
Good. Well, here's the thing. Friends and neighbors, thank you so much for joining us. What I want to do and what is going to happen, we're going to make sure that you have all of Brescia's contact information in the show notes. So if you have been listening today and you think this is the kind of thing that you would take advantage of and definitely get a lot of value from, I want to make sure you have every opportunity to reach out to her and have a very candid conversation. So please make sure you look in the show notes for all of that information. Brescia, thank you so much for joining us here today on Radical Joy.
Thank you for having me.
If this is your first episode of Radical Joy, friends, welcome. We're so glad you're here. If this is not your first episode, welcome back. Thank you for putting your faith, love, and joy in us here at this podcast with CLW Studios and Radical Joy. Hey, if you're the kind of person who loves to give a review, please, please, please leave us a 5-star review on whatever platform you're listening. Take a screenshot, send it to us here at Radical Joy so we can send you some swag. We want to make sure that you know how much we appreciate your support and love. It's one thing to advertise, it's another whenever word of mouth and the sort of experience that you get here at Radical Joy is circulated through your friend group. So if you think enough of us here and what you listen to and how you react to what we do here at Radical Joy would be helpful to your circle, thank you. Thank you for that faith, and thank you for that strength for giving and sharing us with your inner circle. Ladies and gentlemen, it's always a pleasure to be with you here at Radical Joy. Enjoy your week, and please never forget, we love y'all.